Today, we're going to talk about how to raise big money for your Kickstarter, Indiegogo, any crowdfunding campaign. They're not big social stars out there, but these are the guys behind the scenes that, create these massive, successful Indiegogo and Kickstarter successes. And today we're going to talk about specific tips on fundraising. If you know me, I just like how-to content. How do you do it? What are the specific tips and tricks and hacks that you use? That is what we're going to be covering today. And just as a reminder, ask questions on the right-hand side with a /Q. If you're currently raising money for a Kickstarter campaign or whatever you're doing, you want to ask a question, just hit /Q and then your question. Also, don't forget to tweet out the blab on the left-hand side. We want everybody to know that we're doing this and that this video will be available later, not just on Blab, but also on Forbes. I'm going to package this up, put it all on Forbes so that everybody can see it. So let's get started. We're going to start, and I am going to introduce three gentlemen I'm very excited to talk to you guys today with, and that's Iddo Sternberg. He's calling from Israel, actually, and he works for a company called Jellop that promotes Kickstarter campaigns. They've helped raise and generate millions in pledges for their clients. Among them, if I'm mispronouncing this, I apologize, Cocoon, Free, and Holograph. I mean, the way they're spelled, I should be expected to not get those right. Also, Zach Smith and Tom Alvord they're both co-founders of Funded Today, and they've been, I've heard really good things about them on Kickstarter. They follow kind of this three-tiered approach of paid media, PR, and cross-collaboration. They've raised over $15 million. Clients like Trunkster, Better Back, and Barracuda. And we're going to, get started with talking to each of these individuals by letting them introduce themselves in 15 seconds or less, gentlemen. And then a one-word answer. Your favorite platform, is it Indiegogo or is it Kickstarter? So let's start with Iddo on that.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me. Kickstarter, definitely. At Jellop, we do direct response advertising, focusing on Kickstarter projects, doing direct response advertising, and that's about it.
Okay. Zach?
My name is Zach Smith. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Funded Today. And just like you said, we raise money for people with ideas and inventions on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. We've actually raised $30 million. So even better than 15, and Kickstarter far and away better than Indiegogo.
Okay, Tom, are you? Do you have your audio working yet? No, doesn't sound like it does. It's in your browser, and maybe I'll have Jenna send you an email with how to do that. Okay, so let's start. Was that Tom? Okay. Let's start with our first question, okay? So our first question of the day is, what types of companies should use Kickstarter or Indiegogo and what shouldn't? And I'm going to start with Zach on this one.
Okay. Well, basically, we have a formula for Kickstarter success, and it goes like this. Ubiquity plus techie plus awesome, compelling story plus amazing video equals huge chance for success. So let's start at the top. Ubiquity, that just means, is it everywhere? Where's the marketplace at? So if we look at Trunkster, for example, it was luggage. Everybody has luggage. Now, what did they do? They took that ubiquitous item and they added techiness or a cool factor to it. They added USB charging. They added ways to make the luggage expandable, bigger, fancier wheels, different things like that, made it so that it resonated with the techie market that generally does well with Kickstarter. Now, you've got to be able to tell a compelling story to be able to leverage your techie, cool product. People won't buy your product if they don't believe in your vision. So we worked with a watch campaign, and the story that we used to tell that story was 73-year-old watchmaker passes on legacy of watchmaking to grandchildren. And now this legacy of watchmaking made a cool watch cooler because you were helping pass on that generation and legacy of watchmaking. It gives you that chill factor kind of thing that I believe is really necessary to have huge success.
Okay.
So that, to me, is what product is going to resonate best when you're doing a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign. That being said, if you're looking to raise 10,000, 20,000, I think you can still apply that same formula, but don't expect to raise millions for movies, apps, things like that. I think product-related things are generally going to do a lot better.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, because I had heard this statistic that the top money-making opportunities on, I think it was Kickstarter, was something related to dance or dancing. Now, maybe it's not a lot of money, but it seemed like those were the top categories. So when you focus on tech, that was interesting.
We're behind the Bowbox travel jacket, and they're the first most funded project on Kickstarter. They raised $9.2 million, and they're the fourth most funded in product design as well. So fourth most funded all time, fourth most funded product design. So 80-20 says that most of the money being raised on Kickstarter is in product design.
Awesome. Okay, great to know. Iddo, do you have any different opinions around that? What's your experience been?
Yeah, well, I'd say that a large portion of, say, the success formula has to do with a kind of product that appeals to the Kickstarter audience, which is more of the early adopters, innovators. So the more innovative features, the more it's different from what is already there in the market, the more likely it is to succeed. Another important factor is that the project owner knows their way in terms of timing. Timing is super important here. Like, when do you want to press on the gas? When do you want to hold? This is super important. And the last thing that I would want to mention with this regard is that projects that are more tangible, that you can actually hold and see what they do, usually work better.
Okay. So like real products, not informational products like audio.
They work much better for us, yes.
Okay. Thomas, do we have your audio yet?
Can you hear me now or still not?
We do. We can hear you.
Okay, great.
Did you get the question?
Could you repeat that, please?
Of course. What types of companies should use Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and which shouldn't use Kickstarter or Indiegogo?
In terms of who shouldn't, I don't know if you'd really say there's somebody who shouldn't. It might not work or work as well. But if you're going to launch something, crowdfunding is probably your best bet anywhere you go, just because you're able to get those early adopters. You're able to tap into a community of people who will support you. And really, if you think Kickstarter might not be a good fit for you, then I would still go, because you might be able to validate your business idea and realize you don't have a good business. I used to be of the opinion that sometimes like child products wouldn't do well. But we ran a changing blanket, and we raised like $150,000, and I was blown away. I was like, oh my goodness, okay, I take that back. I'm not going to say, baby products don't do well. They usually don't do as well, but they can do well. So it's the best place to go validate your business. So the one place where I'd maybe say would be an app. Apps usually don't raise a lot of money. People are used to getting those for free. But aside from that, any physical product, launch on Kickstarter.
Okay. Or Indiegogo or Kickstarter specifically?
Yeah, for now, we've run campaigns on both, and by and far, Kickstarter. We found this in our own experience, as well as just looking at Alexa. Kickstarter has about 3 times the traffic. With campaigns we run, 50% of a $1 million campaign might come from Kickstarter. Well, if you go to Indiegogo, you might generate $500,000 or $600,000, but if you were on Kickstarter, you would have generated $1 million, $1.1 million. So we go to Kickstarter, and there's just a bigger community. There's more trust. So for now, that's where we go.
Okay.
Now that being said, one plug for Indiegogo. They have something called In Demand, and we're essentially transitioning all of our successful Kickstarter projects as soon as their campaign ends to Indiegogo in demand to continue to raise money for them. And that's been very successful, and we have a nice partnership, and Indiegogo is extremely easy to work with to set those sorts of things up.
Okay, and I also hear Indiegogo's got better analytics, especially when it's, talking about traffic to conversions. Is that wrong?
Indiegogo spends a lot of time really catering to marketers, which I love.
Well, here's the deal. With Indiegogo, you can place like a Facebook tracking pixel. That's one benefit. But aside from that, they have their own dashboard with more data, but it takes like 3-6 hours to update. It doesn't track your referral sources. So I actually prefer Google Analytics and running everything and tracking everything through that, which Kickstarter gives you. So
okay. Let's move into my favorite part of the discussion, and this is, I've heard from anywhere from 6 months to 2 months, but prior to launching your campaign, what specific strategies, Zach, should you do to bring awareness and traffic to your campaign? How do you become successful? I assume I just don't turn on Kickstarter, put my product up there, shoot a video, and that's it.
Occasionally you'll see that happen, but that nowadays Kickstarter's so crowded, you definitely do have to have some pre-launch. And what we teach at Funded Today for pre-launch is FFF, friends, family, fools. It's still very important to leverage your existing network to get them excited about your idea. And not just to get them excited about your idea, but to have cash in hand and pledge for your product as soon as you launch. Kickstarter particularly has an algorithm for popular and magic. And if you can get enough backers and enough people pledging within that first little bit, you can sometimes ride the popular wave if you have that formula that I talked about earlier. Ubiquity, techie, great story, great video, and have really, really good success throughout the duration of your campaign.
Okay. Iddo, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that the first few days of the campaigns are crucial. They basically, specifically day one. These days, they set the pace of the entire campaign. They pretty much determine how Kickstarter sees you and how it ranks you on popularity and, more importantly, in this regard, magic ranking. You want to get as many pledges as you can right on the first day, because you also have this bandwagon effect. And the more people are there right from the beginning, the more likely you are to attract more backers that feel much more comfortable to make their own pledge once they see that they're joining, that there's already a party going there.
Okay. And Thomas, I've heard a lot about email, getting a big email list prior to launching a campaign. Do you find that tactic to be useful?
I think it's a waste unless you have a huge budget to blow. I mean, unless you're a super killer marketer to generate. First off, the emails need to be targeted, relevant of people who are going to buy. To acquire those, you're going to have to be sending traffic somewhere. If they're already your friends and your family, you could just get those. But if you're like driving traffic, like we found, you know what, the best thing is to just launch your product. And when you're driving traffic, drive them to that page. Unless, again, you have some big budget. The best place to start will be your PR right when you launch. So you can have that spike at the beginning, because then that boosts you up into the popular categories and everything. But in terms of email, I mean, if you have the time and the money, sure. We've actually never done it with any of our campaigns, and we've been fine. So,
okay, Zach, what about using tools like Periscope and other, it's not PR, but it's PR-like to kind of launch some of these campaigns? What specific things do you recommend that they do?
I mean, I think something like this, Blab, would be great to have, because now you're basically live streaming a live event and following up with people and showing that social movement and creating that credibility right from the get-go. So I think something like this would be a great idea for launching your campaign. Playing on that email that Tom was talking about, we love when a customer has a past customer list or prospective customers that have shown that they're interested in the product, because you can do a lot of analytics and data and demographic testing with that and have a better chance of honing in, particularly with paid media, on who you should target for that campaign. So when you combine friends, family, and fools, an email list, a strong following of people that are ready to back you, you can generally see within those first 1 to 7 days whether a product's going to be extremely successful on Kickstarter or whether it's got no legs and it's a flop.
Okay, so right away you'll know.
I think so. Now, we've created something called the Crowdfunding Success Matrix, and it's on our blog. You can look at it. It's one of the most recent articles. But essentially, it's 4 quadrants. So you have your supernova, your shooting stars, your black holes, and your outer darkness. Your supernovas are products like Betterback or Bowbacks that literally didn't have to do too much because they fit all the criteria. It was a great product. They had all those things in place, and they were able to be really, really successful. And then combined with our expert marketing, they were able to raise millions of dollars. Shooting stars, on the other end, are campaigns that are just like a shooting star. They're fleeting. They do really well, and then they die. And we love those the most because we can make the most impact with those sorts of campaigns because they've shown success. They've shown that the market wants them, but then they don't know how to market properly. So it's a great product, bad marketing. If we employ great marketing, we can then turn that shooting star into a supernova. And the black holes obviously are products that are a bad product. No matter what kind of good marketing you throw into it, you're wasting it. It's sucking it all away. And you don't even want to be in the last quad. That's just something that not even your mom and dad are going to back. So,
Iddo, what is the biggest difference between companies that fail and succeed on Kickstarter or Indiegogo? What do you see as the biggest difference? Let's say they don't hire you or they do hire you. What do you see as the big difference?
You mean the big difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, or
no,
the big difference?
A successful, let's say I have a product, let's call it product X, and I somehow launch product X on Indiegogo without you, and then I launch product X with you on Kickstarter. So they're both running in parallel. How do you make make product X successful on one platform while me doing my own marketing or my own types of awareness building on the other platform? What's the biggest difference you've seen between success and non-success? Probably a poor question, but hopefully you could decipher that.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing with Kickstarter and to some extent also Indiegogo, but basically on Kickstarter, it's the nature of the transaction on Kickstarter is very different from what we used to in our everyday life, both online and offline. We're used to, we see something we like, we pay for it, we get it, and that's about it. The nature of the transaction on Kickstarter is so different from that. The terminology is very different from what we used to. So if you target not only people who are likely to find special interest in your product or should have high affinity with your product, but rather target the people who are in the overlapping area of both circles, the circle of people who should find special interest in your product on the one hand, and on the other hand, are likely to have made the pledge on Kickstarter so that they know their way around Kickstarter, so that they know what they're supposed to do. This is the one key to success, because regardless how much, it doesn't matter how subscribed a person is to your product, if they don't know what they're supposed to do, and especially when you're talking about limited attention span traffic like we bring through pay-per-click advertising, they're not going to convert. They're just going to bounce in a matter of seconds. But if these are people who are already familiar with Kickstarter, then you're much likely to convert and get better returns on your advertising investment.
Okay. And Thomas, what do you think the differences you've seen with using a company like yours and not using it? What are you guys doing differently?
So in terms of, the results that a client's going to get,
yeah.
We run social media traffic. Jellop runs social media traffic. Anyone can go create an ad on Twitter or Facebook or Reddit or wherever, right? It's just that we spend about $500,000 a month in paid media. And so we know what works, what doesn't. With a campaign, you're on Kickstarter for 30 days, maybe a little longer. You need to be able to scale your campaign within 30 days, right? You can't test this, test that, try to figure out what works, what doesn't. So we're able to jump in and quickly scale a campaign within, just a day or two. One of the ways Funded Today got started is there was a company called Free Waves. They had a goal of 300,000. And as you know, Kickstarter's all or nothing. and they had only raised $180,000. So they need another $120,000 in 100 hours. And so they hired us, and we went back and forth because the risk was they weren't going to pay us unless we got them funded. So we didn't want to spend all this money and not get them funded. So anyways, we jumped in and we scaled it, and they hit about $320,000. So the point is we're able to scale it and know what works, what doesn't, and be able to kind of, traverse that terrain. Now, yeah, someone could go and run ads on Facebook and they might get, a 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 return, but can you go spend $100,000 on paid media, run it yourself, and be able to, raise an extra $500,000? I mean, yeah, if you spend $20, I mean, that's pretty easy because your CPM's lower, your cost per click is lower because Facebook is able to get you a lower cost. But when you're scaling, knowing how to scale, where to go. So really that's the value that we bring and, that Jellop would bring. We can scale a campaign quickly.
Okay. Another story playing on that point, we have access to lots of resources that probably a normal person who's getting into crowdfunding doesn't have. We act as a mini lender, like Thomas said, so we might spend $200,000-$300,000 on your campaign. Most people don't have that kind of money to put up, and you don't have to pay us ever until after your campaign ends if you meet our marketing success criteria. Number two, when we worked with Bobek's travel jacket, he actually tried to do it on his own. He spent about $65,000, and Thomas spent an hour and two going through all his data so he can talk about this more. And he's like, hurrah, you're spending $65,000, but you've only raised like $60,000 in pledges. And it costs you 30, 40, 50% to produce this. So you've lost like a lot of money here, $60, $70, $80,000. And he's like, really? And this is a guy that's the 4th most funded project on all of Kickstarter. So sometimes hiring somebody that does this literally 24/7 makes a lot more sense than trying to do it on your own because you'll make more money too. So,
yeah. And so, Zach, how do you budget, before we go on to the next topic, how does a company with a new product, let's call it a tech product, how do they budget for something like this? Should I budget $250,000? Could I do it for 15? Tell me how that works.
Can I answer this, Zach?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
So this is the very first time Zach and I got started. It was a year and a half ago. He was running a Kickstarter project for a client of his, and there was some company that said, hey, $500 you will run targeted Facebook ads. And he asked me, because I work with presidential campaign marketing, digital marketing. So he asked me, hey, does this look good? And I told him that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Because if you spend $500, if you spend $50 and you make 25, don't spend a dime more. But if you spend 500 and raise 10,000, well, spend as much money as you possibly can, right? So that's where it's kind of backwards. I know like a lot of media agencies say, oh, what's your budget for this? And it's like, there is no budget. The budget literally is unlimited for every country, demographic, psychographic breakdown, all the ad segments that we might target. Literally spend as much as you can if you have an ROI at the ratio. So literally, there is no budget. That's what I would say.
Okay. So you don't go into it with a specific budget. You say, hey, if we find something that works, then pour more money into it. Make a lot of small experiments. Okay.
Now, it's funny though, right? What Tom's saying seems like common sense. When he said it to me, I'm like, oh, yeah, why not? But for some reason, a lot of people think, oh, I've only got $20,000 to put into this. And that may be the case, but that's why we created the pay later model where they only have to pay at the end of their campaign when they receive their money from Kickstarter or Indiegogo.
Okay. Let's. It was wonderful. That's very useful for me, and I think a lot of people that are watching this. Iddo, I want to go to you real quick and ask you about specific challenges you've seen companies face that you've helped while executing on a Kickstarter campaign. What are the main issues that you've seen, or maybe some failures that you've seen?
Okay, so basically there are two how should I say, generic problems. One is exposure, and the other one is of conversion rate. So assuming that your conversion rate is okay, that you're able to convert quality traffic that comes into your page, then it's all about exposure. Now, exposure can come in a paid and organic mode. So paid is, of course, where we get into the picture. to sort out the people, to find the people who are most likely to make a pledge for your product, for your project. And a nice and significant side effect of our advertising is usually we see that the projects, they improve their ranking. They're both the magic ranking and the popularity ranking, resulting in additional organic pledges that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise, just because they improved their ranking and got more organic exposure. By the way, this is something that we don't charge our customers for. We only cut a share of the pledges attributable to us. So we pretty much put our money where our mouth is. So I would say that as long as the conversion rate is okay, it's all about getting the right traffic. If the conversion rate is not very good, then this is something that you should really dive into, especially with what you see with the video and the content that you see either above the fold or maybe 1-2 scroll downs. This is where the important stuff, again, especially with limited attention span traffic, because they don't have a lot of time. They don't give you too many chances. Okay, Tom, any big blow-ups or any issues that you see or mistakes that people make when they haven't hired an organization like yours?
Well, whether they hire an organization like yours or not, here's two main things. Tell your story. Sometimes you don't have a story, but if you had a pain point that caused you to create a product, tell that story and don't deviate it from it, or you might jack up your campaign. There was a project we were working with. This guy was getting headaches all the time at work. He didn't know why. He researched, found out, I'm dehydrated. I need more water. So he created a water bottle to solve that problem that would track his water intake, and when he didn't drink enough, it would alert him, right? How many techies are on Kickstarter who have that probably same problem? Forget to eat, forget to drink, get headaches, whatever. So then they went and they created this Kickstarter video and story showing 15-year-old soccer girls playing soccer, tracking their water intake. None of the people can relate to that. And look, if you're a soccer player, when you're thirsty, you get a drink, right? So they deviated from their story of what their product, how it came to be. So stick with that story, tell that story. If you see the most successful Kickstarter projects, usually the storyline is from the creator. Here's who the creator is, here's what I'm creating, and here's how I kind of came up with it. Those do really well. So stick with the story. But one challenge that a lot of Kickstarters have is not delivering on time. Obviously, you want to have a sooner delivery because people who are pledging will get it sooner, so it's going to hopefully increase conversions. But you're going to win more points if you have a later delivery date and deliver earlier. You're going to gain more points with your customers, with the people who've pledged to back your project. So that would be the one thing. A lot of times people miscalculate. So even if you think you're going to deliver at a certain time and you're almost certain, I would say push it back because that's one issue that a lot of people have. They're not able to deliver on time.
And customer lifetime value is so important. We have clients, we have now launching his 5th Kickstarter campaign. He's become a millionaire just through Kickstarter, and it's because he's done so well at delivering his product. And we've seen that people literally ruin their whole entire chances at Kickstarter doing it again because they take forever, and then the backers tend to get impatient. They're very patient innovators, early adopters, but like Thomas said, try to be realistic in when you're going to deliver, because those backers are so valuable to you as you begin to turn your idea into a business and expand upon that horizontally or vertically.
So what do you mean, Zach? Does he have a formula? When you say he delivers, does he just meet commitments? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so on Kickstarter, you'll have a reward that says, get a better back, $50. We'll deliver December 2015. So if she delivers December 2016, people are going to be pretty mad that it took a year longer than it thought. So the key is really figuring out how you're going to deliver on what you're creating and really having a plan of action for that before you begin your Kickstarter. And we can help with that as well. We've started to get into more pre-launch and teachings so that people aren't faced with how to deliver 100,000 travel jackets or something now because of how effective our marketing is.
Okay. So Tom, I'm going to go to you, start with you this time. After a campaign has launched, what specific things are you doing with the company, or what do you recommend companies do in order to maximize, their funding goals or some other goal that they might have?
So what does a company like us do to help them maximize,
or somebody that's not using you, that just launched on Kickstarter, and you want to give them advice on, hey, these are the things that you need to do in order to increase your funding or to get to some funding goal? Sure.
So hit up press, obviously, and we've seen the people who are most effective are the people who are, adamant about it and keep following up with the journalists. And just again and again, hey, we reached our goal. Hey, we're the highest in this. Hey, we're number one in this category, whatever, to keep reaching out to them, because we've seen some journalists who after 10 emails, they finally say, hey, I'm going to write about you, right? So our theory is kind of like, until they tell you to shut up and get out of here, just keep reaching out to them, right? This is your baby. You want it to survive and flourish. So that's kind of what we say in terms of PR, in terms of paid media. Whether you hire someone like us or Jellop, or you do it on your own, run paid media. Here's people might realize this, but you have a lot of different platforms. Facebook is not the 80-20 of marketing. It's more like the 99-1, okay? So for 1% of your effort in Facebook, you're going to get 99% of your results in terms of what channels you might run from, okay, and your ROI. So, run paid media. And, if you're not familiar, look up how you pass through URL parameters and make sure you have Google Analytics and e-commerce set up, and you can track different ad segments. Do males buy more or females? Do the 35 to 55 buy more, or the 25 to 35? Do people in Israel buy more, or people in South America? And test all those things, and you should be able to find segments that convert.
Okay. And Iddo, do you continue to use PPC after the campaign is launched? Are you still running it as long as there's an ROI to it, or do you do something more?
All right. So basically, since the beginning of the year, we worked with some 150 projects. So we onboard a new client every other day. That's more than we can handle. We're a very lean team. We see ourselves more of a boutique rather than a McDonald's agency. So we usually say no. We're being asked by our successful project that we run, the project owner, many of them ask us to continue. We usually we try to focus on Kickstarter projects only. But we make some exceptions for special clients.
Right, but after it's kicked off, let's say they started with you before, after the campaign kicked off, what specific things are you doing after the Kickstarter campaign is launched? Are you still running PPC ads? Are you doing other things like PR, or at least suggest?
I missed the last sentence. Could you please repeat that?
Yeah. What specific things are you recommending to your clients to do after the campaign is launched and out there? Tom had mentioned lots of PR and just bug reporters until they write about you. I happen to agree with that a lot. Are you continuing to run PPC? Do you have other suggestions? What do you do once the campaign's launched?
Yeah. So we don't do anything other than PPC. This is what we do best, and I know very little about PR. I know that in general, across the board, it's less effective than in other platforms because of the very limited, PR usually takes time. Also, PR is usually, if you hail a rock anywhere, let's say in the States, you're very unlikely to hit someone who's a Kickstarter backer who knows their way around. It's only 1 in 100, 2 in 100. So it's basically most of the media coverage that you'll get doesn't worth much. So basically, and of course I'm biased here, but the most effective way is PPC. According to the results, we change it, fluctuate. We let our clients set the budget. So If it goes very well, we raise the budget more and more. And the thing is that you usually start with the best audience you can find. And because there's a diminishing returns effect here, like you first target the best audience possible, and then the second best possible, and then third best possible, you broaden your targeting the more the project progresses. And the thing is that toward the end of the campaign, you see the best results. Because again, people hop on the bandwagon. Once you bring a visitor to a page where they see 5,000 backers, it's one thing. And if you take them to a page where there are only 50 backers, it's another thing. Most people don't like to be the first idiot to back a project. That's sad but true.
Yeah. And Dak, I'm going to throw you quite a little bit of a curveball. I got a question here from Joshua Johnson that I really like. What's the best advice that you might have for creating backer levels or stretch goals? This has got to be an art and a science, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I actually just responded to Joshua with an article that we wrote because we get asked that question quite a bit.
Hey, but this isn't for the pledge level, or like not your goal level, but your backer levels.
Yeah, exactly. So first you got to set your original goal, right? And to determine how to set your original goal, just like Iddo said, Kickstarter is a paradoxical vehicle in the sense that you put your project on there wanting it to get funded, but until it is funded, generally the traction isn't as strong. People don't want to jump on that bandwagon. And so that's the whole idea of making sure you get traction during those first few days to show that it's successful so that the crowd will follow. Now, once you have that in place, so you set that goal, we call it the least viable goal, the smallest amount you can set your goal such that you can fulfill on the backer rewards, create the product, but also not so high that it takes forever to get there so that people feel like, wow, this thing's already raised 10 grand and it only had a goal of 5 grand. So once you've done that, setting your stretch goals should have been planned before in terms of what you wanted to do after you've hit that goal. And people get way excited about that at that point. So like what Thomas said, go for 80-20. Create a level if you can that is 10 times more expensive. There will be customers who want more of what you have if there is something you can deliver of value at that price point. So we do that all the time with our clients. At the end of their campaign, we create a new goal and tell them this is the only time you're going to get this particular product at this price. How much better to double your pledge and get 2 of them, or quadruple your pledge and get X amount. And by doing that, with the Bulbeck's travel jacket, we raised $500,000 more just in the last 24 hours. And we have success rates like that across the board by simply upselling existing customers, by creating new reward levels that are simply more of the product they've already backed.
Okay. Tom, do you have anything to add to that?
I was just Skyping some things, but really I like to think everything in terms of the Pareto Principle 80-20. So you might have someone who might only want to put $5 in, so have a pledge level that's relevant to your product that people could pledge for $5. I'm not talking about like a t-shirt or something that's not related and it's just your branding. I'm talking about like if you could something with your product. But then if you had something that could be, like Zach was saying, 10 times more, there will be people who it's like, man, I love your watches. Give me the top of the line. Yeah, it's this one's $700. You'll have people who will pledge for that. So realizing to not just have one pledge level. Here's something else that is really important. We found, and we've tested with a couple different Kickstarter projects, that changing a price point from say 50 to 75 causes pledges to plummet. And what happens is, I call it riding the wave. It's where you're in the top 10 on Kickstarter, and because you're the top 10 on Kickstarter, you get more pledges, so those keep you up there. And so you're basically riding the wave of this Kickstarter traffic, just generating more pledges, right? And there are projects, like if you go to Expand Shoelace on a Kickstarter, they're number 1 or 2 right now. We're working with them, but before we came on, they were just sitting there, right? And so if they were to, let's say they were to double their price, they're at $500,000 right now. If they would have doubled their price, my guess is they might have raised $60,000 so far. So because what happened is all of the pledges, before we came on, they weren't running any marketing. All of the pledges were coming from the Kickstarter traffic. Kickstarter is a top 500 website on the web. They have enormous amounts of traffic. So when your price is too high, you stop dropping off that popular category and the magic category, and then you don't get any of that traffic, so then you just dry up. So you want to price your product where it's aggressive, but also making sure you maintain your margins. That's another problem. We see people who have their price so low and they have no margins to run marketing, even if they ran it by themselves. And we say, look, you don't even have a company. You should cancel your Kickstarter, because when this is over, you're going to fulfill on this. You raised $50,000. You're going to make $2,000. So unless you're doing it for some charity or something, like I think people should go to Kickstarter to launch a business, not do charity. But if your goal is to raise money, make sure you have the margins, because even post Kickstarter, if you don't have the margins, how the heck are you going to market it or put it into retail if you don't have the margins? So make sure you have the margins and price it competitively so you can have a higher conversion rate.
Okay. All right, and our final question, Iddo, I'm curious what your most successful Kickstarter campaign was, and can you kind of walk us through why you thought it was successful and what you did in it?
Okay. Well, it's not a Cocoon would be my favorite project. It wasn't our biggest. We had a
Iddo, what did
Cocoon is basically, well, actually from a personal.
What did Cocoon do?
Yeah. So they have basically, it's much more than that, but these are headphones that you can sleep with and track your sleeping. And for me, well, okay, a short personal story. I see, again, we work with 150 projects since the beginning of the year. I saw hundreds and hundreds of those little bastards in the past 11 months or so. And I made myself a promise, and both to my missus, that I'm not going to back any projects because I know this is a slippery slope. But this is one thing that I just couldn't resist. Like, I had to have it. I actually made a pledge. And the thing is that what I like best about it is that it just, everything worked, okay? And that's the thing, like, there is, again, this goes back to this bandwagon effect, this timing. Because once you see, again, once you get this momentum, you can ride on this wave and get to the shore. And that's what I like best. Again, we worked with a $5 million project. We worked with many projects that got seven figures, but this was definitely my best,
and,
my favorite.
If the product didn't work as well, and a lot of times in kind of the pre-funding stage, you don't really know. Do you think it wouldn't have been as successful?
Well, I don't think so. I'm a quasi-Buddhist, so to speak. So I believe that what goes around comes around. So, and it goes, by the way, it goes with our clients too. Because like whenever I'm asked by a prospect to introduce them one of our past clients, I just say, okay, we work with these projects. These are our largest project. You can check our website. Just reach out to them directly and ask them about us. We and again, even my team members who are not quasi-Buddhist also believe in that. So this is a very thing. I don't believe that you can fool too many people for too long. At the end of the day, you have to have a strong product, and the wisdom of the masses works here. Okay, so you have to have a strong product. You have to test whatever you do, and you have to leave a little room for luck and momentum.
Okay, Zach, what about your most successful campaign?
We've had so many successful campaigns, so if I just want to cherry pick one, I'll pick Betterback, just because Betterback was kind of what Iddo was saying. It really is true. If you can actually see yourself wanting that product, that's almost the best indicator that it's going to be successful. And with Betterback, as you've seen in this presentation today, what do I keep doing? I keep slouching. I keep having to sit back up straight in my chair. Betterback essentially aimed to improve people's posture 15 minutes a day by wearing this little apparatus that keeps your body in perfect posture. And I wanted it, and I backed it, just like Iddo. And when we ran the marketing for that campaign, we were very, very successful. So I would say that probably is the overriding factor if you want to get rid of all the analytics, all the statistics, everything else that we do. Do you actually want that product?
Yeah, but then why do we need why do we need you then, Zach? I mean, if it's a good product, why do we need your company?
Well, again, it goes back to our crowdfunding success matrix. Just because I want the product doesn't mean I'm going to talk about it. I might buy the product and be done. And that's how a lot of people will be. You have to have a great product and great marketing in order to achieve that supernova multi-million-dollar status. Otherwise, you're probably going to be a shooting star. So you'll see success, but that success will never be long-lasting. It'll be fleeting, and it will come sporadically.
Okay, and Tom, is it great marketing only PPC and PR? Is that what you guys kind of really focus in on, or is there other things that you've seen work?
Cross collaboration. So you have a project, you're running, other people, hey, you want to collaborate, send a message update, and at the end say, hey, check out this project. They do the same. That can raise the campaign an extra $20,000, $30,000 if it's a good campaign or more. And going back to the last question, I mean, in terms of, you know, if you say the most successful project we've worked on, if you're talking about money raised, I mean, we work with Bowbacks. They raised $9.2 million. We came on in the middle and helped them raise about an extra $4 million. So yeah, I mean, that was a great campaign. We raised more on that campaign than any other campaign. But in terms of maybe the most successful, we kind of joke around, but not really, saying that we make people's dreams come true. That's kind of our business motto. And when you have a project that has only raised $20,000, it's dead in the water, their goal's 50, they've been working on their baby for so long, they're trying to resuscitate it, they don't know what to do, and we come in and we help them raise $150,000, like, that's really satisfying. Now, we don't make as much money as $1 million project, but you have these people, and you know, Jellop could attest to the same thing. They'll sing your praise. They love you because you just made, you know, kind of that. And I realize, I mean, Kickstarter's multinational, right? But I mean, the American dream, right? You just made this a reality for me, whereas before it wasn't. So, you know, and there's a handful of campaigns that have been like that. They're not going to hit their goal. We come on and we help them pass that, or maybe 2-3 times their goal. So those are campaigns that I think are, you know, maybe some of our most successful, because we took something that didn't have any more life and brought it back to life.
And Tom, have you guys ever done anything like what I call the Shark Tank effect? It's not necessarily that you're going to sell a lot for your product, but just drive awareness for your product on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Is that a tactic that you guys would advise, or would you just say, forget it?
I hate branding. So not really. We're kind of, I think all of us here are kind of direct response marketers. So, I mean, I suppose somebody could do that. I'm kind of waiting for the day, and I think it'll come sometime, where you have an Apple or a Google or a Microsoft who come and launches a new product on Kickstarter, because of just, if somebody were to do that, the press that would be generated saying, hey, look at this, you know, Fortune 10 company launching a campaign on Kickstarter. Yeah, sure, they lose 5 points because of Kickstarter, and they might have a big headache delivering on however many units they sell. But I think a big corporation like that could launch something just for kind of the PR that it would generate.
Okay.
And I think we're going to see that happening. I just think right now they don't understand crowdfunding. They've kind of got into that corporate nature, and they have a process for how they release new products, and they don't understand how valuable it is to reach out to those early adopters and innovators that represent only 15% of that demand curve, but have a conversion rate 100 times better than the rest of the world that'll ultimately buy your product when it's matured.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like that's the perfect place to launch when you're looking for early adopters, right? I mean, if you want early adopters, where are they? They're on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and those are the ones that can light the fire potentially for, you know, the laggards and everybody else that follows. But I haven't seen, and I'm pretty sure they're out there, but I haven't seen an example of one that didn't raise a lot of money but got, you know, a bunch of awareness around their product or service. Maybe they go hand in hand. You raise money and you get a lot of awareness. I'm not sure how it works. We
see a lot of stuff in the back end. So we provide what's called product validation. there's a lot of companies that come to us that we tell them, hey, it's not going to work. It doesn't fit our marketing success criteria. However, here's an example where we were wrong. Here's another example where we were wrong. And it's almost like gambling, but it's better because, maybe it's 90-10, maybe it's 80-20, but you've got a 20% chance that Fund It Today might raise you hundreds of thousands of dollars, even though right now you're struggling. And sometimes it's worth the risk to take that gamble and roll that dice. And a lot of people like to do that. Now, worst case, sometimes because of the reach and the expanse that we have, you'll see in their messages, in their Kickstarter campaign, retailers or wholesalers or people reaching out to them thinking, hey, this is a good idea, let's talk. And you see a lot of stuff that probably is developing behind the scenes that happened because of awareness that doesn't directly show up in total gross pledges.
Okay. Anything else to add on that, Iddo, or any additional?
Yeah, I mean, just yesterday there's a campaign we're working with, and they just got hit up by 2 investors who want to put in $1 million and buy 30% of the company because they see this market opportunity. So people will get hit up. I mean, we've worked with luggage companies who get hit up by, is it Samsonite, Zach? You do get exposure, and you see a lot of people who are kind of scouring Kickstarter. I mean, that's why you had Target. They had a Coolest Cooler. I mean, obviously that blew up, but I mean, they went and tried to create their own Coolest Cooler before Coolest Cooler could deliver. And we have clients, probably 50% of them, oh my goodness, you won't believe what happened. Shark Tank's reached out to me. And we don't want to dash their dreams, but we kind of just say, yeah, that's really cool, But they don't realize Shark Tank is kind of just scouring to see, hey, what's the next cool thing that we could put on our Shark Tank that will get us more ratings or whatever, right? So a lot of people are looking at Kickstarter. So even if you don't need the money, yeah, you're going to get a lot of exposure, one way or the other. The one reason you wouldn't launch is you rip off someone else's product, you launch it on Kickstarter, you get exposed as a fraud because Kickstarter bans you. That would be one time you wouldn't want the exposure on Kickstarter. But besides that, yeah, I mean, it's pretty beneficial.
So, Thomas, are you saying the Kickstarter is the minor leagues to the Shark Tank? Is that the kind of analogy you're using?
No, I actually think that that Kickstarter is the major leagues, because you actually got to do something, right? I mean, there you just have an idea. Hey, do you like this? Will you throw money at it and make it work? I don't know what to do. Crowdfunding is like, no, you got to put the pedal to the metal and make it work and put your story together and get actual consumers, not investors, consumers to buy. So
I was just in Orlando on stage speaking with Damon John of Shark Tank, and one of the things he talked about quite a bit was, does your product have validation? Are there people that actually want this? So it's something they absolutely think about. And when you come on that show and you have a successful Kickstarter campaign, you're going to get a much better offer if you raised a lot of money. And you're going to get more opportunities in retail and wholesale. I think having a good Kickstarter is the ultimate ticket to starting your business off on the right foot.
Okay. All right. With that, I want to thank our guests. We're at the end of the show. I will leave, and if you guys want to jump in, I'll let people ask you guys questions. If you want to stick around, if you don't, that's fine. But I'm gonna end the show at this point. And I really want to thank you guys. I did learn a lot. I mean, I could spend hours with you just picking your brains and figuring out how to do this. But I really appreciate you guys coming on.